Welcome to Real Talk with Tina and Ann. I am Ann, and Tina will be back soon. John, I recently met you at the Mansfield Reformatory for the 30th reunion of the movie Shawshank Redemption. I first walked past you, and it was just a real brief interaction. I don't even know if you remember the first time. And then the second time, this was hours later. I walked past you, and you were still sitting there. And you're just sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm like, were you in the movie? You looked so interesting to me. I knew that there was something about you, and I felt an immediate connection with you, and I wasn't sure why. So I said, were you in the movie? And you said, I've been an extra in other movies, but, nothing major. And I was like, so you're kind of famous. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I said, well, what are you doing? Do you have a job? And you said, yeah, to watch this sculpture. And I was like, uh, this is a beautiful statue from the movie, and you're watching it. And you said, yeah, because I made it. I mean, that's how humble and gracious you really are. You just were so nonchalant about it. So, long story short, I left there and I was just like, what in the world? Why didn't I ask him to be on the podcast? We had such a great conversation. I was genuinely in awe of who you were. I came around the corner outside. There was this huge banner that said, you could win a $25,000 sculpture from John Hare. I said, his name's John Hare. I know, I have a name now. And so I immediately started Googling you even before I got home. And there you were. I emailed you, you called me, and here we are.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was
happy to
that.
be here.
Yes, well, thank you so much for doing this because I know that you are very, very busy.
I am pretty busy right now. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to give our listeners a brief introduction to who you are.
Okay.
You are the official Olympic sculptor. You have
Yes.
you have created sculptures for even some stars because I found some.
Okay.
Your clients include the U.S. Olympic Committee, the U.S. Air Force Academy, Computer Sciences Corporation, cities from around the world, like Beijing and Shanghai, and the Emmys Hall of Fame, and over 50 colleges, universities, and schools. I've looked at your sculptures, all of them are stunning and just
Thank
take
you.
on the essence of what you are trying to convey. Your Olympic strength, it exemplifies strength. Your historical figures from Mother Teresa to Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Frederick Douglass, George Washington, to name just a handful of them, seriously demonstrate their personalities. You you have over 150 public art commissions.
That's correct.
I am not kidding when I say that they are stunning. And everyone listening, please go to johnhare.com and check out his work. But before we get into your beginnings, can I ask you if you could share about the process of sculpting and now how long it takes to make one of those really large pieces?
The first thing that you have to do is win the commission because
Okay.
they put out a call for artists and you submit your qualifications and some samples of your work. And if you make the short list, there can be usually 5 or 10 other sculptors that are also selected. And then we sculpt a smaller version of it called the maquette. And you send that in, and if they like your maquette, if they like your idea, they think they can, get the best product from you, then you win the commission. So almost all the over 150 commissions that I've had, I've won like 95% of them. So
Wow.
I've been,
That
I've been,
does
I've been very, very fortunate, very lucky, really, because in the art world, I'm really a nobody because the kind of work I do in the art world is not considered a valid art form.
Well, I saw your work and I would say that it is a valid art form. I don't understand why is sculpting not considered
Well, we're in the art world of Campbell's soup can labels getting $60 million.
Oh,
Uh, the bunny rabbit balloon guy. It's just gimmicky junk like that. And since I was born, I've had this thing inside me. I want to be a great artist, right?
right.
And I sat in the basement of a one-room schoolhouse in Iowa where I was born with my five brothers and sisters and my mom and dad. We had no walls in the basement, just clotheslines with sheets hung up with clothespins. That kind of divided it into rooms.
Wow.
But the one thing we did have was we had a book. We had a bookcase, and in the bookcase was the World Book Encyclopedia. And while my dad was working and my mom was out running around, if John would be the good guy and take care of all the kids and make sure that the dishes were done and the diapers were changed and everybody was in bed, well, then when mom came home with her boyfriend, well, he'd play me a game of chess, which he never did. But I'd sit there waiting for them after I cleaned the house and put all the kids to bed. And I'd look through the World Book Encyclopedia. I saw these fantastic sculptures and beautiful illustrations of Spanish
Oh,
ships and just gorgeous artwork. And one night I was sitting there and I looked at it at the bookcase and I said, that's the volume H. I wonder if there's anybody in there with my last name.
mm-hmm.
I looked through and I said, no, there isn't. Maybe I'll be the guy that can get my name in an encyclopedia. Maybe I'll be the guy that can do that. Of course, now everybody has a Wikipedia page, so that's not a goal. My goal right now is just to, stay alive and stay in business and support my family. I've got three kids. I've paid for three master's degrees. My kids never had to get a college loan. I sent them through college to try to get them prepared for being successful in life. And that's like my whole thing. When I went to art school, I didn't like the art that was being done. The Campbell soup can label and a Brillo box is in the art history book. And some guy takes a camper and parks it in front of a government building and takes a photograph of it. Then he takes a camper and parks it in front of a grocery store. And
Mm-hmm.
so he parks this thing where it doesn't belong. And he's in the art history book. The same guy
Right.
that said a urinal was a piece of art, that kind of stuff. So when I got to art school, I was very disappointed in what the art world really was. And I thought, you know what? If I've got to do this kind of stuff to make a living, I'm just not going to do it. I'll go drive a truck, which I've done before. I've
Right.
had plenty of jobs. I drove a laundry truck. I've worked in factories. I cleaned toilets at night. I did my first freelance art job when I was 9 years old because we
Oh,
had no money. And I
could,
wanted to rent a drum that was in the music store window. Didn't have it. So I got my own jobs and I figured early in life, I realized that nobody was going to help me. There was no adult that was on my side. There was no adult that cared about me. There was no adult because it was all just, turmoil and drama from all the things that happened. So we went from the basement to an orphanage for a while.
oh
Got the same
gosh,
treatment there,
I'm sorry.
poor white kid. Then we got shipped from there down to my grandma's house in Florida because nobody could trust my mom, and my dad had to go work overseas to make up all the money that she went through when he was there the first time. And same thing there. I just found out recently, a friend of mine in St. Petersburg, Florida, I told him that the elementary school I went to in St. Petersburg back in the 1950s, you know
Yeah.
what he told me? Oh, that's the
But
poor white kid's school.
oh wow. Okay.
So there you go. So I've had that whole thing my whole life, people looking down on me, telling me that I'm no good. My mom, for years, you're parasites, beatings all the time. And finally, when you get to a point where you're going to get a beating for nothing, so now I'm going to get something out of it. I'm gonna stick it to one of her boyfriends or somebody if I get the chance. So my thing in life is I've just been trying to survive. That's it. And I've done a pretty good job at it so far. Of course, I've been through a lot, personally, really, things that I don't know, kind of tear you up, but you have to tear you down, but you have to build yourself back up. You realize that you have to do it yourself. Especially if you're like me, an artist and a musician. People don't call home and say, honey, on the way home, could you stop by the store and pick up a sculpture? They don't do that,
Right.
So you've gotta stand your ground. You've gotta not take. My thing is this: don't give up, no matter what the consequences are. Don't give up. You'll get through it.
Mhm.
Don't give in and have everybody tell you what you should be doing when you know what you should be doing. You just haven't found a way to do it yet. But don't give out. Just totally just forget it and go be a drug addict or something, because that's what a lot of people do, I think. And I just worked hard to the one thing I wanted to do when I grew up was have a normal family and raise some kids that were normal and had an opportunity to succeed in life and know that they're loved and cherished.
You didn't want anything like how you were raised or
That's it.
not raised. Nobody
Nothing.
even raised you.
Nothing. Didn't want that.
Well, you kind of touched on something that I think I also have, that we were beat down and beat down and beat down as young kids. But for some reason, we didn't let it take hold of us. And we still stayed on a path, no matter how hard it was, and we didn't give up. It kind of like that Thomas Edison thing where he tried 10,000 ways to make the
Right.
light bulb and he finally figured it out. I mean, lots of people don't have that, and they quit way before, they finally get over that hurdle and they get to where they're wanting to go. But for
Right.
some reason, you didn't let all those beatings and that living in the basement and the orphanage and everything else take you down to a point where you didn't even want to function and be your best self.
Well, I had moments like that. I had
Okay.
moments like that, but I pick myself up and just keep on going. My thing in life is put your head down and go. And one of my favorite quotes is about, I think Cecil B. DeMille. They asked his brother how come he was so successful. And he said, well, because he bit off more than he could chew and then he chewed it. So
Right.
that's my thing. I'm going to stick my head in the noose to try to get ahead. And if I hang, that's fine. But I'm going to give it my shot. So I've kind of always been that way.
Okay.
Because what are you going to do when you're in the situation that you're in?
So has your family ever looked at your career, the family, your mom and dad, and said, look what he did without us or in spite
No,
of us,
no,
or
not really. Not
you,
really. No. My mom, I got on a plane with her. She was, losing a little bit of her mental faculties when she got really older. And she told people on the airplane that I was an executive at Bank of America.
oh, okay. Okay.
So, and basically, before I got into the sculpture thing, I was an art director. When I was a kid, I watched that show Bewitched.
Yeah, I did
Oh,
too. One
Darren
of my
Steven worked
favorites.
at an ad agency. He was an art
Yes.
director. I thought that'd be the coolest job. I could
Yeah.
do my art and still be creative, come up with ideas for ad campaigns. So when I was in art school and discussed what was really going on in the art world, which is really not anything to do with art, I wish people would realize that it's all about money. It's all
Okay.
about money. And these groups of gallerists who have millions of dollars who will find an artist that they can promote. They buy his stuff. They send it to Sotheby's. They auction it off. Then they stick it in a warehouse for a year. Then they bring it back to Sotheby's and auction it off again. And if nobody buys it, they rebuy it themselves to keep the value of that going up. So that's what people look at in art today. It's billionaires and millionaires making money off of some artist that probably couldn't make it on his own. And that the Guggenheim, the woman that was with Hemingway and all those people, she's kind of the one that started all that. That art doesn't really have to be good. Art doesn't have to be something that people look at and get joy. That's what I love about sculpture. I can go to a
Okay.
university and a person will be, I get calls, Mr. Hare, I walk out of my way just to go by your sculpture in the morning because it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love. So if I'm making people feel good with my art, and then I see the way that, figurative art has been condemned and these guys were all hacks. Michelangelo and Rembrandt, these guys were all hacks. If you look at American art magazines, they're just a bunch of idiots who are just trying to make money off of art, that have no real soul for art, no feeling for art. Art can uplift. When I have these, here's an interesting story. There was a guy that was a professor, a black guy. He was first professor at the University of South Carolina after the Civil War, right?
Okay.
So they want to commemorate this guy now. So they put out a call for artists. Okay. I was selected. I wanted to do a sculpture of the man.
Okay.
Everybody loved the idea, but guess who? The art department. Oh,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
that's not a valid art form. That's all passé. That's all junk. What we really need is a laser light show, right?
Oh my gosh.
That's where their heads are at. And
Mm.
but when I see pictures on the internet of people standing in front of Richard T. Greener, 9 feet tall black man on the campus of the University of South Carolina, they always have the biggest smiles because they love the guy. There
Right.
he is. Now he's inspiring you. Now you can be like him. He was
Exactly.
just a person like you. He's not some kind of supernatural being. And then Frederick Douglass, people sit
Mhm.
beside all these people that really made a difference in their lives, can make a difference in our lives if we let people know who they were and what they did. And that person sitting there on the bench, Frederick Douglass is one of my favorites. Uh, People want to sit down next to him, be like him. I love that. So take your light show and hit the exit.
It's a shame that that's where art has gone,
Yeah.
because when I look at your sculptures, they take you to a moment in time. I mean, you can actually feel the presence of this person. That's how I felt when I saw the sculpture from the movie, even. When I'm
Uh,
standing in front of it, it felt like I was right there.
Well, I appreciate that. I did Mr. Rogers for his hometown in Pennsylvania, and his sister was there for the unveiling, and she sat down on the bench next to him and kissed him on the cheek and said, "It is my brother."
Oh my goodness. See, you get the details and the lines and all that thing. I mean, you really do capture the person. I mean, what in you is able to do that? Maybe it's just the artist, I'm not sure, but you take it even further.
Well, I think, for example, a historic person like George Washington, okay? If I
Hmm.
get commissioned to George Washington, the first thing that I'm going to do is go on the internet and find as many pictures of him as I can. Now, there wouldn't be any photographs, but there'll be paintings and drawings and a few sculptures maybe. And if you look at him in each phase of his life, he doesn't look like the same person. So which one do
Okay.
you do?
Right.
To me, it's how does he appear in the public mind?
Okay.
That's what I want to capture. How does he appear?
Okay.
When people think of George Washington, which one of these faces do they see in their head? So that's
Hmm.
where I go with the portraiture. And I think probably that's why it connects with so many people, because it's kind of what's in the public mentality.
Now, I don't know anything about sculpting, and you really brought this thing in me that I want to know more about it. So, I mean, what is the process? You get the commission, you get the job, and then you go into your workshop.
Well, you know what? I really had no idea that I was going to be a sculptor.
What did you see yourself doing, that young John? What did you
Well,
see him doing?
I just I wanted to create art that made people feel good. That's it. I wanted to get the same feeling that I got when I was looking through the World Book Encyclopedia. Wow, look at that. That is beautiful. Wow, look at that. That is so cool. Wow, look at that. That's artistry. It took a someone with technical abilities and talent and skill and vision to do that. That's unlike most people.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I had an ad agency. I was very successful. I was an art director for 20 some years. And
Oh.
I was 49 years old and I was bored.
Mm.
Yeah, I told my wife, let's go around to some art shows because maybe I got some real art in here besides the advertising stuff,
So
besides
you
our logo at the airport. besides the all the artwork that I've done for General Electric and big clients like that over the 20 years that I was an art director. I just want to do something different. So I told my wife, let's go see some shows. Well, we went to 7 shows that year. The last show was in New York City at the Javits Center. And I saw a guy, I saw drawing and painting, which that's what I did as an art director for 25 years. I sat at my table with my 300 marker set and did renderings on paper for advertising campaigns and television spots and things like that. But I saw a guy doing a sculpture and I said, that's it right there, man. That's cool. I'm going to do that. I went back to Charlotte, which is where my ad agency was. I rented a studio across the hall. And at night when the kids were all tucked in and their prayers were said and their homework was done, well, Dad would go over and work until like 1 or 2 in the morning, sculpting. That was the hard part because my studio and my agency are on the 2nd floor of the shopping center in Charlotte. And right out the window while I'm sculpting at 1 o'clock in the morning is a place called the Irish Q. A bar, a rock and roll bar. And I thought, man, what am I doing over here? I should be over there playing my drums.
Right.
Yes. But I kept it up. And after about a month or 2, we had enough sculptures to get in the show. And then the advertising business in January is really dead because everybody spent all their money for the year and they haven't really decided what they're going to do for the coming year. And I found this magazine called Sunshine Artist, where I could see that in Florida, during the winter time, there was an art show every weekend in some city in Florida. So I told my wife, I said, you know what, let's do those shows. We'll go to, so I signed up. They accepted me right away because as an art director, I had beautiful printed material of all my sculptures. First show was in Naples, Florida.
Okay.
Drove down there. It was cold as hell, raining. Oh man, it was miserable. And my wife, after 3 days of that, said, okay, I'm renting a car and taking the kids back to Charlotte. We'll see you in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So my next show was in Fort Lauderdale. So I had to drive through the Everglades, which I was familiar with because I grew up in North Miami Beach. I played my music all over Miami. That's when Miami Beach was like the Strip in Vegas. Bright lights, beautiful hotels, all the biggest talent in the world coming there. I played all those hotels. I did that. And so I knew my way around Florida and through the Everglades. And I finally get through the Everglades to the Miami city limits. There's this big casino going up, Miccosukee Resort. I said, yeah, these guys, they need a warrior in front of that place. So I pulled in there and I said, who do I talk to about a sculpture? They said, well, you're going to have to go back to about 40 miles to the village and talk to the tribal chairman. So I backtracked. I went in, I said, hey, I'm John here. I'm a sculptor in the area. So you're building this beautiful new casino. I'd like to do a sculpture for your entrance. Could I talk to the chairman about that today? Oh, no, man, the chairman's a very important person. He won't be able to see you.
Okay.
He's booked up for 2 months. I said, well, would you mind if I just sit here? Maybe he's got 5 minutes. You know, I just want to give him my brochure and introduce myself. Sit there all day if you want, but he won't be able to see you. So I did. I sat there all day and 5 o'clock came. So I drove out of there and I thought, you know what? I don't have an art show until Saturday. I got the whole week. So I pulled over and I got a room in this little rundown motel. Next morning I was back there. Hi, I'm John here. Blah, 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 blah. Sit there all day if you want, but you won't be able to talk to him. So I sat there all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday. By Thursday, these tribal elders that were walking in back and forth out of this guy's office kept looking at me and say, we're not going to talk to you, white man. What are you, stupid? And I just smile and look at him and I think to myself, I'm here till 5 o'clock on Friday. Well, at 4:45 on Friday, guess who came out of her office? His secretary.
Okay.
Said, the chairman will see you now. I thought, hey,
my
I'm in, you know. So I got in, I showed him my brochure. I had a couple of Native American pieces that I had done, which he really liked. And I said, well, I thought you'd like a sculptor for your beautiful new casino. And he says, well, we wanted a sculptor, but we couldn't find one. I said, well, I've been sitting in your waiting room for 5 days now. He says, yes, and he stuck his finger right in my face. Yes, you're the most persistent person I've ever met. So we sat down and talked for about 10, 15 minutes. I told him I'd get back to him with a proposal. So I went to Fort Lauderdale, did my show. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, I was in a Kinko's place putting together these 12-page, fully illustrated and detailed proposals, 8 copies for each one for one of the tribal council members. And when morning came, guess who's sitting there when he walked in? I was the last person he saw on Friday. And he did a double take, kind of irritated, and he goes, "What are you doing here now?" I said, "Well, I told you I'd get back to you with a proposal." He said, "Already?" I said, "Let me tell you something, my friend. I'm not the hare that lost the race."
Oh, wow, that's
So
good.
he got a chuckle. Because I've got a pretty good sense of humor. He got a chuckle out of that. And we sat down and I walked out of there with a check for $115,000 and my first monumental commission.
Okay.
So I was on cloud nine for about a half an hour until I realized, oh my God, I don't know how to do those big things. I'm doing little stuff like this,
Yeah.
But I got through it. It worked out. And that kind of an attitude has really helped me a lot. When I was in art school in Columbus, I had a part-time job, worked at a hotel at night, put myself through art school playing my drums.
Mhm.
I get a call from the union. Hey, this big RCA recording group's coming into Columbus for 2 weeks and they're looking for a drummer. So back then you had to be in the union. So
Okay.
I had a union card for Miami, New York, and Vegas because I played all over. And I was very well known because I'm a great drummer. When I play, people get up and dance. I got the
Okay.
rhythm, it's in me. It's same as the art thing. My mom said, I knew you were going to be a drummer because you used to sit on the sand pile and beat on the oatmeal box.
That's
So
amazing.
anyway, I went in there, I got in line. There were 8 drummers in line. I was number 6. And I was there for over an hour while the other guys auditioned. They were auditioning a guitar. They had a huge orchestra with an orchestra leader. So after drummer number 5 got done, the orchestra leader came over to the 3 of us and said, well, thanks for coming, guys, but we got the guy we want. I said, you got the guy you want? What do you mean you got the guy that you want? There's 3 of us here. We could blow that guy away. You don't know that. You should let us play. I got to hear
Mhm.
from here's my letter from the union. You're going to audition. He goes, I'm sorry that this is over. This audition is over. And he walked away from me. And I looked at as he walked away from me, it really got me irritated. Here's another guy treating me like I'm nothing. I
Right.
looked at him walking that way and I looked up on the stage and saw those drums and I made a beeline for that drum set.
Oh, wow.
Got up on there. I started
Awesome.
playing. I did like a 2-minute drum solo. I could see the guy, his face just got red. It just went up like that. And he raging over. And one of the singers put his hand on his shoulder. He goes, hey, wait a minute, man. This guy sounds pretty good. Let him play. So I played. And then I got back down and I went back. I got in line. I stood there and I saw him over there in their little huddle. And the guy comes over and he says, well, you were right. We didn't have the guy we want. We want you. So that's one of the reasons that I've been able to survive because I don't let people put me down and I don't put other people down. People get a thing about, I'm going to put that guy in his place. I don't have that. With
Mhm.
me, you don't have a place. Your place is you. I just treat you as an individual like I'd like you to treat me with respect.
Well, your drums took you places because I also heard that you played with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, that was absolutely the kindest, nicest, most generous, soft-spoken person I've ever met in my entire life. I love that guy.
Oh, that's
Well,
amazing.
we
What a
were,
wonderful experience.
well, it kind of was and wasn't. I was playing my drums in Miami. I was a well-known drummer down there for a long time, and I was 17 years old. And I
17.
got a call from this band in Miami. They had sold a Miami was a huge rock and roll market. There were clubs everywhere back in the 60s. There were hundreds of bands, and you could sell 100,000 records in Miami. That's how many people were there, and there were 50 clubs everywhere. You could always go and
Mhm.
get a gig. Um, so I did that for a long time. This big band called me and said, well, we're going to New York for the summer to cut an album. We got signed at CBS and we'd like you to be our drummer. So I said, okay, I went with them. Well, the girl in the band was like probably 19 or 20, and she kind of had a thing for me. I think that's why they picked me out as the drummer. Besides, I was
Okay.
the best drummer in Miami, period. And So we went to New York. CBS got us gigs. We worked in the East Village. We did a Columbia Pictures after party for a big movie. We worked at CBS in the daytime and played our music around New York at night. And one night we're in the club, and the guy, our guy from CBS, comes, sits at a table, and here's the singer, her mom from Miami is there with some big chunky looking guy.
Okay.
Right. So I went over to the table and he says, the CBS, yeah, we're gonna take you guys out to dinner after the show, and we got a little. When I talk to you about about the album and all that. So they took us to dinner and basically just fired me and the bass player because the mother wanted me out of the band. She called me a penniless sleepwalker.
So somebody else now putting you down. Somebody
Yeah,
else.
always, always.
Oh,
So I kind of, okay, I get it. So we got fired, and a couple of days later, I'm sitting by the phone, and the bass player who was from CBS, an older black guy who's been around New York a long time, he goes, "Hey John, this guy Jimi Hendrix is in town. You want to go meet him?" I said, "Never heard of him." He goes, "Well, nobody has, but everybody's going to." So we found out the hotel he was. We went up and knocked on his door in his room, and who answers the door? Two of the Isley brothers.
oh my gosh.
Hey, you guys are working an album at CBS. You guys are playing down in the Village. Yeah, we know all the talent that comes into town, they told us.
Okay.
What are you doing now? I said, well, the band broke up, and I'm gonna spend August in New York, and then I'm probably gonna go back to Miami and finish high school. And you know what the guy said to me? Would
What?
you consider staying in New York and being our drummer? I thought, well, Isley Brothers, I didn't know much about them. I knew my mom listened to them. So
Okay.
anyway, Jimmy came up. He was this nicest, and he was very soft spoken. And I asked one of the Isley brothers, I said, "Why is Jimmy so soft spoken?" He said, "Well, if you were a young black kid growing up in Seattle back in the 40s and 50s, you
Mm-hmm.
did not speak unless you were spoken to," and he carried that through his adult life.
Okay.
But what a sweet,
Just a kind
fantastic guy.
man.
So we
Yeah.
went out, we partied. There was more drugs in that thing than you could even count.
Right.
So that was a part of it. When they say if you said you lived in the 60s, but you can't remember and you remember it, you really don't. Because I don't remember a lot of that. I remember jamming with Jimmy. We went up to a big skyscraper where the Rascals had a practice spot. There was all kinds of great musicians from all over New York, people that you never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And we just went and ran around New York City and went from club to club and jam to jam and all night. And we just had the greatest time. And I saw the
So,
guy later. He came to Cleveland because after that summer in New York, I decided to just leave Miami, get rid of the music business,
okay.
to go move in with my dad who lived in Ohio and go to Ohio State and follow my art. So that's what I did. But while in Ohio, I got a lot of gigs from a lot of other musicians that were traveling through the state. So fairly well known. Even right now, I can go to San Francisco to a place called the Saloon. My buddy Dave Workman plays out there all the time. And
Okay.
last time I came out there and sat in with him, he said, "Just call me the next time you're coming into town. I'll book you as my drummer for the night." So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I always have this thing, and you've been touching on it the entire time, is 90% of success is showing up.
Yeah.
And you just keep showing up and showing up. And even, well, when you sat there for 5 days and waited for him to come out, I mean, that is persistence. But I mean, that's what you're describing here. And you were in the right place at the right time with Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, I was. Well, we had the same A&R man, which is arrangements and repertoire.
Mhm.
And we came in to go to do a session, and they were still in there. So, they were taking up our time slot. So I wasn't crazy about that. And I really never liked Art Garfunkel. I'd never seen the guy smile.
Okay.
There's always some kind of problem with that guy. Now, Paul Simon was pretty nice, but they were going over a song for their Bookends album. And they didn't like what the studio drummers at CBS did. And they couldn't figure out. It was a very unusual song with different tempos and rhythms in it. And Paul Simon just looked at me and goes, "You're a drummer, give us some ideas." So I said, "Okay." They had a little tape player. I said, run the tape for me a couple of times. And then I laid down all the stuff for that song. It's on the album. But I never got a credit. I doubt if Paul
Okay.
Simon would ever even remember me, because who was I? Some nobody drummer for a group from Miami that never really made it. So that's okay. I had those experiences and I cherish them, and there's more to come, hopefully.
You keep referring to yourself as like this nobody, and like, people have put you down all your life. But I think that even though you sometimes hear other people's definitions of you, you still have created your own definitions of yourself. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I never really thought about it that way, but I've kind of come through this with, my own picture of me.
And what is that compared to what other people's voices have been in your head?
I want people to say when I'm gone, he was a great dad.
Okay.
He was a great grandpa. He's a great grandpa, which I am a great grandpa.
Okay.
Um, uh, he did something with his life that benefits other people. I think
Mhm.
my artwork that's around, that people see it, they
Mhm.
they're motivated by it. You
Mhm.
know, they get enjoyment out of seeing it. Uh, it touches a part of them that maybe they didn't even know it existed. Because
Mhm.
who goes and looks at art and goes, "Oh man, I look at all art. I like all art." To me, if you're an artist and you can make a living in this environment, more power to you. And if you're doing the bunny rabbit balloon, that's your thing. But if
Mhm.
that's all you got, I'm not interested in seeing more balloon animals. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I always challenge myself to, even when I was a drummer, I tried not to play the same lick twice in a night.
Mhm.
Everything clean, different. And I try to do that
That's
with my art too.
that's
So
so amazing. How did you go from that kid that was just got up there on that stage and started playing to get the people in the room to hear you and give you the gig, to who you became? How did you get from that to that?
just keep doing that.
You just
Just,
kept showing up. You just
keep
kept.
showing up, be persistent. I've been married twice. My first wife ran away with a motorcycle mechanic. My second wife, now we're getting ready to celebrate our 48th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
She's been with me all that time. She's helped me a lot. She really has.
Having someone
She's,
genuinely care and be in
well,
your
because she
corner.
came from a real family. She came from a
Mhm.
real family.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, uh, her uncle got killed in a uncle and aunt got killed in a car wreck. So her dad took in her two nieces,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
5 kids in a two-bedroom apartment, raised them up, that kind of a thing. And they were proud Catholics and very religious and principled. And her father was a great guy. Um, he had a saying, and I still stick with it: always do what's right, and you can't go wrong.
Right.
That's it. I just keep that under my belt, and whenever I'm in a situation, I think of that.
Yeah, you had a lot of wrong done to you with 5 kids living in a basement as
Oh
your
yeah,
start.
6.
Oh, 6 kids living in a
Yeah.
basement.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Of a one-room schoolhouse. That's not a big basement.
who was living upstairs? Can I ask? Because I'm really
Nobody.
wondering.
My dad was working 3 jobs. One of those jobs is a carpenter, and he was trying to finish the upstairs uh, so that we could live upstairs. But my mom ran around on him. He never knew it. Her and her boyfriend said, "Hey, we got to get Archie." That's my dad's name, Archie. He's passed away now, so is she. We got to get Archie out of town so we can be free to party. Let's get him a job overseas. So they looked through the
Mm,
newspaper. They found a job for a carpenter in Thule, Greenland, building an Air Force base on the Arctic Circle for a
oh,
year.
okay.
Sign up for a year. you get $1,200 a month, which in 1955 was a lot of money. It's 3 or 4 times what he could make working 3 jobs in Iowa. So he went off for a year, and when he got back, mom was gone, the money was gone, and the kids were in the basement by themselves. Now what are we going to do with them? So that was the situation.
So
So
that's how you ended up in the orphanage?
that's how we ended up in the orphanage, because my grandma took the baby, my one aunt took the 2 girls, and nobody wanted the 3 boys.
So
So
the
they
three
stuck
of
us
you.
in the Lynn County, Iowa Children's Home, formerly known as the Home for the Friendless.
Oh, oh my goodness.
And that was bad. But you know what? I broke the bank twice in Monopoly when I was at that at that orphanage. And they made us work outside and do yard work and stuff like that. That place was the best looking place after I got done with it.
Why do I believe
My
that?
thing
Oh
is,
my gosh.
uh, my mother hated us. When I was a drummer at 14, playing Miami Beach, I dragged my drums into the house at 2 in the morning, and with all of it, there'd be a double sink with dishes piled up as far as you could see, with a note on there that said, "John, do these or else."
Mm,
Because nobody else would do it. My older brother was a gold brick. He never did a damn thing. I
mhm,
was the one that did everything because I was I was super obedient. I didn't want to get beaten. I did whatever I had to do to not get beaten. But when I got in there, I started doing those dishes. I cleaned that whole kitchen spotless. I was up like for 2 hours. I said, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be the best that can be done. And that's
See,
just kind of my attitude.
see,
Whether it's cleaning the floor, painting a house, or doing art or playing
see,
music.
you can't teach that, I don't think, because there are so many kids and people today that really want things done for them, and they want to get things for free.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
and what I really like about and I was exactly the same way. I mean, I was a scrapper. I mean, I did everything I could to make it, and I just go after the hustle because I learned really young that I couldn't rely on anybody. If I was going to do something, be something, create something, I had to rely on myself. And you
Right.
learned that really, really young
Yes.
as well. So you were that little kid. How old were you in the basement when you were looking at those World Book Encyclopedias, would you say?
Well, by then I was probably, well, let's see, Catholic school, first grade, 6.
6 years old. And
Mhm.
you knew then that you wanted to get in that book.
Yeah, I knew then, because I admired the artwork that was in there so much that I wanted to be with that group of people.
So you didn't start sculpting until what year was it? 2000 or something
Yeah,
like that?
I was 49 years old. I had my ad agency. I was doing really well, but I
Right,
was just bored. I
right.
wanted to do something else. People go, well, how come you got into sculpture? Boredom.
So, I mean, you held on to those images in your head all those years, and it still was inside of you, and you just wanted to start creating that. I mean, that's an absolute beautiful story.
Well, it's just kind of, the way I was born. I think I got the art gene. That's what I
Now,
think.
you did say to me in a conversation that unless you have this absolute burning desire inside of you to do this, don't even bother.
Well, yeah, because a lot of parents will ask me, oh, my son or my daughter, they want to major in art and, at the University of so-and-so, what do you think? I tell them, don't do it.
Hmm.
Because the art world, and the music world, you have to create your own clients. There's nobody out there waiting for you to come on the scene.
Right, you got to go for it.
You got to go. You have to make, yeah. So unless you've got this thing like I've had my whole life, this burning inside. You remember that movie Alien, where that thing popped up out of that guy? You
Hmm.
ever seen
Yeah.
that? I've had that my whole life, right in here, kind of like pushing me. John, do something, get up, don't sit, make something, draw something, paint something, build something. When I was a kid, I took the lawnmower in Iowa and I drove the lawnmower around all the bushes out in the back by the woods. And I took scraps of siding and made yield signs and stop signs. And I had my little car that I would drive around in there, like
Hmm.
5, 6 years old. So that's kind of been in me all this time. I'm glad it is, because it's the only thing that's helped me to survive. I
And
probably couldn't have enough
what
without that.
one of the other things that I've heard you say through this whole entire thing is that you want to create joy in other people. You want
Yes.
and the heaviness
Isn't that our purpose for being here?
I say that all the
Really?
time.
Isn't that our purpose?
It
My
absolutely
purpose.
is.
My purpose.
Yeah, and I feel and I had felt very young that that was my purpose as well. And I was silenced and told many different ways that I didn't matter or whatever. And so,
Right.
here I am doing this podcast and I've done different art and I've been a journalist and different things. And I really do believe that when you come from those kind of beginnings, that we've got so much pain within us to offer to other people, which will turn it into joy. I mean, we just offer such a different perspective in life, and we want to show people the joy inside of us instead of the pain that we went through. One of the things that I wondered was, do you take the pain from your beginnings and put them into your art, put it into your art?
No.
No, not at all.
Uh, the artwork really isn't, I don't view the artwork as an extension of myself.
Okay,
I'm creating that specific thing. It has its own life.
okay,
That's the art. It has really not much to do with me in
okay.
my thinking. Once I create that one piece, it stands on its own, And I just visited some relatives in South Carolina yesterday and uh, took two sculptures that I had in my warehouse to give to family as gifts.
Mhm.
And those people really appreciated it. A little sculpture of Clifford Brown, the trumpet player. I left with my nephew
Mm.
because he was from a mixed family, and he's the only guy I ever knew that had a Clifford Brown album because his dad listened to Clifford Brown. I said, this guy
Okay.
needs the little maquette that won the commission in Wilmington, Delaware, my 8-foot statue of Clifford Brown. But Clifford Brown, great musician, right up my alley. I'd love to. I want to do a Hendrix. That guy was
Oh
fantastic.
my gosh,
He
you have
knows
to
I
do
would have.
that.
I want to do that. I did a great Obama for the Mecklenburg Democratic Party. Those people really inspire me. You know.
Have you ever gone to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland or said to them, I want to do a sculpture for you guys?
No, I when I left Miami and went to Ohio uh,
Hmm.
to go to Ohio State and live with my dad. Um, I was at home one day and I got a call from a girl in Cleveland. She goes, John, your picture's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I said, really? She goes, yeah, Jimi Hendrix concert. And then I remembered when I came back from New York, he was in Cleveland a few months later, and a bunch of my brother's friends, actually, I didn't have a car, wanted to go see him. So
Hmm.
we drove up to Cleveland to see the guy, and I got out of my seat and went up to the stage, kind of towards the end of the concert, and he saw me. He said, hey man," he didn't remember my name, but he remembered my face. So
Wow.
at the end of that concert, uh, he said, can I give you something? Because he was always giving things away. When I was in his hotel room, a photographer came to the door and admired his moccasins that he was wearing, those hippie kind of things.
Hmm.
One off, he goes, here, you want them? He's going to give the guy his moccasins. He's giving cars. He's bought new cars for strangers, people that he never met. The guy's got just a generous soul.
Hmm. That's amazing. But you didn't want to create anything for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Have you ever
Well,
thought
you
of,
know what? It's such a huge, you can't get into that place. And as far as I'm concerned, they're concerned, I'm not anybody in rock and roll.
well, yeah, but
Really?
you're a drummer and a sculptor. So I
Yeah.
just wondered.
Well, I never really thought about approaching them. Because really in the art world, I mean, I'm a nobody. You want another nobody art versus artist drummer in the thing? So I really haven't, but yeah, that's a thought.
Like
Well,
of Jimi Hendrix. You could do one of I've gone into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and I've seen the Jimi Hendrix exhibit and it's amazing.
wow. I need to go up there, I guess. Yeah.
Now,
I was just
how in
in
the
Cleveland too because of the Shawshank thing.
right, how in the world did you see? I don't know. Did you do other busts of people other than Dick Van Dyke? Because I found that picture of you standing with him with his bust.
I was in the foundry in LA, working on the Olympic monument. And he, Dick's kind of an artistic guy. He knew the guy that owned the foundry, and the guy that owned the foundry told him that, hey, the sculptor that's doing the Olympic thing is here. So Dick Van Dyke actually came down to meet me.
That's amazing. And then that was it. I mean, he asked you to do that.
When he walked in, I said, "Oh my God, it's Dick Van Dyke. What's he doing here?" You know. And
Right.
first thing I said, "I'm going to tell everybody that I just met Dick Van Dyke." You know what he said? I'm going to
What?
tell everybody I just met the sculptor for the U.S. Olympic team.
And
That's how cool he was.
that
So
was going to
I
be,
told him he's asked me if I did portraits. I said, yeah. So I did that little portrait of him. I took it to his, and then I had to, before I did the casting, I want to make sure that he liked the sculpture, right?
mhm,
So you can take pictures of sculpture, but it doesn't really, you don't get the sense and the feel of what it really is like. So I thought, you know
mhm,
what, I got to put this thing on an airplane and go out there and get his okay on it before I have it cast.
mhm.
I took that thing on an airplane, flew it out there, went to his house. He loved it. And then we did the casting and I delivered it to his house in Malibu. He invited me up there and showed me around his little tiny bungalow he lives in. His wife was there. When I got to his house, he was out on the street talking to these little kids in the back of a station wagon. Hi kids, what's going on
Okay.
today? Little Bobby or what were their names? Or is this the nicest? He's another person that I've just been honored just to meet. You know,
Right.
I've admired that guy my whole life.
Well, and I have as well. And he's in his 90s, and I mean, he's just still moving and doing things. And one of the best quotes that I ever heard him say when they asked him, why can you still dance and do these things? He's like, you just got to keep moving.
That's
And
it. Man, I tell all my friends, I'm going to be 75 in a month. And all my friends, most of them are retired. I go, what are you retired for? You got to keep
exactly.
moving. Get off the couch. One of my friends, oh my God, I've aged so much since I saw you 2 years ago. I'm this and I'm that. And what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your time? Get a
Hmm.
job, I told them. Get a job. You got to stay busy. You're going to vegetate and just fade away. You want to do that? Not me. I'm not fading away. I'm going out with a boom.
Well, the older we get, the more we know, the more that we can give back to the world. And, it's really sad that some people feel that they've reached a certain age and they're done.
Yeah. Well, when you've worked a job that you really never liked. I mean, I came up
Okay.
with a 40-year period where nobody ever really got a raise.
Hmm.
That's the time that I grew up. 40 years, you really did not get hardly much of a raise.
Hmm. Yeah.
The last ad agency I worked in before I started my own ad agency, we had 9 art directors in there, and 3 of them got fired. And then there was a salary freeze. Nobody was going to get a raise for at least a year.
Hmm.
When they told me that, I walked into my boss's office and I said, I want a raise today, or I will not be back tomorrow. He
Okay.
says, we just fired 3 guys and you're coming in here asking for a raise? I said, yeah. Who's your number one producer? Me. Who's going to be doing all their work? Me. So I want a raise and I want a raise today, or I'm not going to come back tomorrow. You'll have to find somebody else.
And
Well, at the end of the day, he came back and he goes, I can't believe it. The old man said, okay, I got the raise. Uh,
you are absolutely amazing. I love your spirit. How in the world did you land the Olympic job?
well, it was a senator from North Carolina that was the biggest Olympic individual sponsor, I guess, giving them money.
Hmm.
Because he was a track star at UNC Chapel Hill before the blacks were allowed in the college.
Okay.
When blacks were finally allowed to come in, all those records went by the wayside.
Yeah.
But he loved the amateur sports, and he wanted to he was a supporter of the Olympic Committee, so they asked him to build a new strength training center out there in Colorado Springs at their training center. And he called me up and he said, "John, I want you to come out. We're gonna build a strength training center, and I want you to do a sculpture for the front of it." So I went out there. This was a trip. This guy's name is Irwin Belk. I don't know if you ever heard of Belk department stores, but there's mostly a Southern store. They have 300 and some department stores. Huge outfit. Huge outfit. So I went out there. We went over the building and what they wanted, and then they said they wanted a sculpture with the theme of strength. So then they all took us to dinner at the Broadmoor, which is a historic old money hotel. And we sat around, had dinner, and after the dinner, one of the sponsor's sons stood up and he goes, "My dad has given you $1 million to build this building, and now he's going to give you more money to put a sculpture in front of it, and you're serving us this cheap wine? I want the good stuff." So they started bringing in this $300 and $400 bottle of wine stuff, and everybody started drinking that. I don't drink wine. I'm a beer drinker, and that's another way you get put down at all these big places. So to keep from being discriminated against as a lowly beer drinker, I came up at one of those gatherings. I went to the bartender and I said, "Take a martini glass, fill it with beer, and put 3 of them huge olives in there on a stick." I'm walking around. "Hey, what's that?" "That's a beer teeny." So I never got crap anymore after that. But so his son said that. So now they're saying, "Okay, well, what can we come up with? Here's what we thought about." Well, you like one guy on a bench with the towel around his neck because he just lifted a weight, and another guy lifting a weight. Okay, well, that's okay. I said, "You know what though? What do you think of what's the one visual that comes to mind when you think about strength?" To me, it's Atlas.
Right.
It held up the universe. How about we have an Atlas figure? Instead of an Atlas, we have 4 Olympic athletes. And we can have a female for the Pan American Games. We can have an African American guy for the U.S. Olympic team. We can have an ancient Greek, which was the original, and we can have the Paralympics. Well, that's it. And they could be holding up holding the world up on their shoulders. Oh, that's a great idea. Is there anything you could do with the Olympic federations? I said, "Well, how many are there?" 45. Yeah, I'll sculpt their logos in relief and run them around the base of the sculpture. I sculpted it out on a napkin and showed them that. And so then the donor says, "Well, John, how much do you think that's going to cost? You want to do it life size?" I said, "Life size? That's Mickey Mouse. You can't do this life size. It has to be at least twice life size, and it's probably going to run you a little over $1 million." So you know what the guy goes, "Let's do it."